Hey everyone, and welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into a book that genuinely challenged a lot of my own thinking about money. It's Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money. Now, this isn't going to be your typical finance text, full of charts and complex formulas. What we've got here is really a fresh look at Housel's core ideas, ideas that kind of rethink what it means to be, well, successful with money.
That's right. And our mission for this deep dive really is to unpack how our own behavior or emotions, how they're actually way more influential for financial success than just, say, raw intelligence or math skills.
Hmm.
So forget the super complex algorithms for a minute. This is more about how we think and how we feel about money, and how those thoughts and feelings, well, they really drive our actions and ultimately our outcomes.
Yeah, and Housel flips the script right away, doesn't he? On what we think leads to financial success. We're often told it's about IQ, about being smart. But he makes this pretty provocative claim. It's less about being smart and actually more about being reasonable. I mean, you could be a spreadsheet wizard, right? But if you panic sell every time the market hiccups, well, you're going to struggle. So what does reasonable actually mean here, especially when money feels so, I don't know, personal and emotional for everyone?
That's a great question. And it's really key. What's fascinating is how two people can see the exact same news, right? Look at the same data, and then turn around and make completely different choices. Housel's point, I think, is that being reasonable means finding a system, a way of doing things that you can actually stick with through the good times and the bad. Even when your emotions are just screaming at you, it really highlights that behavior is crucial. Maybe even more than just knowing the facts. It's the actions we take, driven by our own unique backgrounds that matter most.
And those unique backgrounds, that's where he brings in this idea of our individual financial bubbles, right? It's like we each grow up in this unique little money world. Maybe you saw your parents living paycheck to paycheck, or maybe you saw them steadily building wealth. Those early experiences, he argues, they fundamentally shape how we see money, how we handle it, pretty much forever.
Oh, absolutely. And these different experiences, they definitely lead some people to play it super safe, very cautious, while others might be much more comfortable taking big risks. And what Housel stresses, there's no single right way that works for everybody. But understanding why you think about money the way you do, understanding your own personal money story, that is the game changer. It's really about self-awareness, not judging yourself or others.
Okay, and this next point from Housel really got me thinking because it kind of flips a common assumption. He draws this really sharp line between the skills you need for getting rich versus the skills for staying rich. I sort of always assumed they were, the same thing. Getting rich, he says, often takes guts, ambition,
Yeah.
and maybe a bit of luck, let's be honest. You have to take some risks to grow significantly, right?
That's the common view, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's truth to it. But Housel points out that staying rich, that needs a completely different set of tools, things like humility,
Mm.
patience, and just the ability to keep your cool when everything feels like it's going crazy. It might sound kind of boring, but things like consistent saving, actively avoiding stupid risks, and just being prepared for surprises. These are the absolute keys for long-term wealth preservation. It's about surviving the dips so you're still around for the climbs.
And speaking of the long term, Housel really emphasizes compounding, that almost magical process where your money makes money, which then makes more money. He calls it one of the most powerful forces out there, not just in finance, but like in life. Think about relationships or knowledge or skills. They often grow slowly at first, right? Then suddenly, boom, they accelerate. It's the same with money. And I found that example of Warren Buffett so compelling. Over 90% of his massive wealth was actually made after he turned 50. Why? Because he started early and just let compounding do its thing for decades.
It's the ultimate proof of consistency over, let's say, short bursts of intensity.
Yeah.
It really hammers home the importance of patience. And, crucially, starting early if you possibly can.
Yeah.
Letting time be your ally, that's probably the most powerful financial tool you have. It's just about showing up day after day, year after year. Let that snowball get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, and another core idea in the book is this profound sense of humility needed in finance. Housel is really clear. Nobody, or not even the smartest experts, really knows what the market's going to do next. History is just littered with surprises, crashes, booms, weird events nobody saw coming. So if prediction is basically impossible, what do we do instead?
Well, that brings up a really practical point for all of us, doesn't it? Why plan for perfection if perfection just isn't achievable? Housel argues it's much more effective to plan for room for error. It means building in a safety net, having some slack in your financial life. That way, when life inevitably throws those curveballs, and it always does, you're still playing. You're not knocked out. It's about resilience, really, not about having a crystal ball.
Okay, now here's one that really challenged me. House suggests saving just because you can, not only for a specific big goal like a house or retirement. I don't know, most of us are conditioned to save for something specific, a target. So what's the big mental shift he's asking us to make here?
hmm He explains that saving primarily for optionality, which basically means having choices, having the choice to act or not act, to say yes or no. That gives you incredible control, flexibility, real freedom over your own life. It means you don't have to take that terrible job, maybe, or stay in a bad situation just because you need the paycheck that week. So saving isn't really about depriving yourself now. It's about empowering your future self with more choices, more agency. It's a powerful idea, and it really changes how you look at that savings account.
This next one. Oh boy, it hits home for so many people, I think. The danger of social comparison in finance. You see that flashy car, the big house? Househol's reminder is sharp. That tells you absolutely nothing about their actual bank balance or their debt. I mean, we've all done it, right?
Okay.
Scrolling social media, seeing someone else's apparent success and feeling like, ugh, I'm falling behind.
It's so easy to fall into that trap. So easy. Comparing your behind the scenes, your actual messy financial reality to someone else's highlight reel, just what they choose to show. That is just a guaranteed path to making bad decisions and feeling frustrated. The powerful message here is live your own financial plan. Focus on your own progress, however slow it feels sometimes. Be proud of that. Your journey is yours alone. Trying to copy someone else's visible success? Well, that often leads to invisible problems, like debt.
Housel also talks about this really interesting concept, tail events. These are like the rare extreme things, the outliers on the chart. Think about the 2008 crash or the COVID pandemic hitting the markets, or maybe finding that one stock that just explodes. They're not normal day-to-day stuff, but they end up dictating so much of the long-term results.
Exactly. His insight is that a pretty small number of decisions, or maybe just random events that happen to you, will actually drive most of your financial outcomes. The takeaway isn't try to predict these tails, because you can't. It's more about being ready for the unexpected. And crucially, just surviving the bad times so you're still in the game to benefit when the rare good events happen. It comes back to resilience again, and recognizing that most of the time things are pretty normal, but the extremes have the biggest impact.
And this leads to another really important question Housel raises. Is the most technically rational financial decision always the best one for you, personally? It makes me wonder, have you ever seen cases where maybe a slightly less optimal choice on paper actually worked out better for someone's peace of mind?
Oh, definitely. That's a great point. It also shows us that sometimes a choice that seems less rational, like maybe investing a bit more conservatively than the absolute maximum return strategy suggests, or keeping more cash than a spreadsheet says you need, or even, say, paying off a low-interest mortgage early just because you hate debt. Sometimes those things are actually better if they give you real peace of mind. It's not always about squeezing out every last percentage point of return. It's about building a strategy and a life that you can actually stick with long-term. If a decision helps you sleep better at night, that might just be the most rational choice for your actual life.
And finally, Housel wraps up with maybe the most powerful message in the whole book, the importance of knowing what enough means for you. This is such a deep idea because it flies right in the face of that constant societal pressure for more, more, more.
Exactly, that constant chase for more. More money, higher status, more stuff. It can be a trap, an insidious one. It often leads people to take unnecessary risks. And ultimately, it doesn't even lead to more happiness. Housel reminds us that happiness often comes more from contentment with what you already have, rather than always hitting the next arbitrary financial milestone. The real challenge, and maybe the key to genuine financial peace, is to define your own enough and then let that definition guide your choices and how you live.
So, after all this, what does it mean for you listening right now? I think this deep dive into the psychology of money really shows that financial success isn't just about crunching numbers or knowing fancy investment terms. It's fundamentally about mastering your mindset, understanding your own values, and building disciplined habits that actually fit your life.
Absolutely. To just reinforce those key takeaways, be patient, save consistently, focus on avoiding the big catastrophic mistakes, and maybe most importantly, understand your own game. Figure out what works for you and your temperament when it comes to money. It really is less about the math sometimes and more about the story you're living.
And maybe here's a final thought to chew on as you go about your day. When it comes to your money, how you behave is probably way more important than how much you know.